It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Everywhere you go, take a look at the 5 and 10. Go listening once again.
Okay, enough. Well, hey guys. Hey. I didn't want to make this video. I really didn't. Let's talk about November. Okay. November got off to a great start, I would say. I decided to take part in the 1,000 Door Readathon being hosted by Drinking by My Shelf and a couple of other booktubers. But I figured that it was perfect. It would get me into the reading spirit, you know, when you're following a readathon and it's like, it's almost like you're being told to read, although you don't have to, obviously, but I just feel like it encourages me more because my mentality is like, I want to finish the readathon. I want to do it. I want to do well. Yeah, that's not what happened. I started off with, I mean, I could explain the rules to you of how the readathon worked. Basically, like, of the 3 booktubers that were doing the readathon, you could start with any one of their 3 prompts. I went for Emma's, which was 5, and from there, at the end of her video, whatever you rated that book would then lead you through the next door, which would bring you to a new prompt, and so on and so on. Well, I decided going into November that I was going to finish reading some of the classics that I didn't get the chance to read during Halloween because I didn't give myself a lot of time over Halloween to read them, and I was very slow reading all the other classics that I was reading. I was reading a lot of like kind of classic horror novels. I read Frankenstein, Dracula, The Turn of the Screw, and I still had 3 that I hadn't read, and I thought, oh, that's okay, I'll just read them in the month of November, you know, I'm still kind of feeling the Halloween spirit. So I started with, because the prompt was 5 and I tried to find a way for the prompt to fit the book I wanted to read, I ended up picking Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Strange Tales, and it actually worked out okay because this has like, it's a collection of short stories and there just so happens to be 5. The top one there with all the chapters is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Then we have The Body Snatcher, The Bottle Imp, Markheim, and then Ware of Hermiston. I haven't a Scooby how to pronounce that. But I figured that's great. There's 5 stories in this book. That's perfect. So I got off to not a bad start. I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and I liked it. It wasn't what I was expecting, which I find all the time these days when I read a book that is like a classic and I've maybe seen an adaptation of it, or I've maybe just heard the story. It's been told to me. Like, I remember the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because one of my teachers in primary school, so that's when I was like a kid, told us the story, but obviously he didn't read it from like a book. He was like just telling it just off the top of his head, or he was just telling it in a way to us as kids that was easy to understand. And I have this memory of it that it just was nothing at all like what it was in this book. So obviously he'd completely changed the story as he was telling us it, but that's fine, that doesn't really matter. But it was part like drama and stuff, and it was good fun, I remember. So it was a lot different than I thought, but also as well I felt like for somebody who knows the story, like, you know that Jekyll and Hyde are the same person, that sort of element of surprise gets completely taken away, because I knew going into it, and that's all the story is just talking about the 2 characters, and then it ends. The main character, I forget his name, he's friends with Dr. Jekyll and he meets Mr. Hyde. When you already know, which I feel like most people do know, if you didn't already know, I've just spoiled it for you. So you probably knew though, right? Right? Tell me you knew. The fact that the whole book is basically like leading up to this one final surprise where it's like, oh my god, they were the same person. But when you already know, it's not shocking. It's not like, oh my god, or anything like that. So I don't know what I would have gave that if it was like a novella on its own. Possibly 4 stars because it was fine, it was good. I wouldn't quite give it 5 stars just because of the fact that I feel like I already knew what was coming, but that's my own, that's a me problem. That's not a book problem, that's a me problem. But anyway, then had The Body Snatchers, which was inspired by the case of Burke and Hare. That story I felt like was going somewhere and then it didn't, and I was left feeling a bit like, I don't even know what happened, to be perfectly honest. I don't really know what happened at the end. It just ended and I was a bit like, oh. Was I not paying attention? Then with The Bottle Imp, I really liked The Bottle Imp. It was actually quite a good story. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know where it was going to go, where it was going to end up, and it was good. I really liked that one. I maybe would give that one like 5 out of 5. The Body Snatchers I think I would maybe give 3 out of 5 because I wasn't really sure what was going on, which seems to be a recurring theme when it comes to me reading classics, that I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Then we had Markheim. I think that's how you pronounce it. I didn't really know what was going on with that one either. He killed a guy for no apparent reason, and then a person started speaking to him, a ghost, a demon, I don't really know, and then he turned himself in, and I don't really know what was going on with that one. I'd give it a 3 out of 5 as well. And then the last one, The Weir of Hermiston, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, that one I actually skipped a few. Like, I never skip, I'm already rambling. I never skip over passages or pages, but in that one I did, because as I was reading it I realised I was literally just glancing at the page and just kind of thinking like, I've got to get this finished, because by the time that I was finishing this book it was already the 28th of November. Yeah, I read this book in a month, a whole month it took me to read this little book. There's only about like 200 pages in it, and it took me so long. I don't know, I kept putting it down. I read the first one, I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde quite fast. Then I started the next one and I kind of was slower with it. But it wasn't very long. And then The Bottle Imp wasn't very long either, so I finished it quite quickly. Then I kind of abandoned it for a while. I was playing World of Warcraft for like a month straight. Then I finally returned to it because I was like, oh my god, I've not read anything in the month of November. What am I going to do? So I quickly read Markheim, and it was okay. It was very short though, but that was fine. And then I got to the last one and it went on for like 100 pages. And I was so surprised. It was because it's an unfinished romance of the author's. And as I was reading it, I was kind of like, what is happening? It's talking about this woman and then her son and his life, and I didn't really know what was going on. And then more stuff was happening, other characters were introduced, and I just glanced over I just skipped ahead. I skipped to the next chapter. I was like, I'm not doing it, I'm just not. I skipped ahead, which I never normally do, but I'm glad that I did because it didn't make any difference. And then I finished reading it and I just kind of read it all in one sitting because I was like, I've got to get this finished, but I have absolutely no idea what was happening in that story. But seeing as it was like an unfinished romance, I take it all that was just like the premise, the build up, the first 100 pages or so. You know, the first 100 pages doesn't really matter so much in a book. Sometimes. I mean, sometimes it does. It does matter, but like I felt like it didn't really matter in a sense if I didn't really understand what was going on because it was unfinished, so there was nowhere for me to go with it. So overall, I think I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars just because I realised I'm not a massive fan of short stories. I'm just not. And I think what it is, especially when it comes to ones like classics, a lot of the times I'll enjoy the first couple of stories and then I just don't know what's going on. Sometimes I just get stories that I have no idea what's going on. Sometimes I think short stories try to be too clever. They try to be too clever and I'm too thick, I'm too dumb to follow along. Therefore, I end up getting a little bit confused. I have no idea what's going on. I'm not really into the book, so I might end up just glossing over the pages, and before I know it, it's over and I have no idea what's happened. So 3 out of 5 stars, it was fine. This brings us to the 29th of November, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do? I only read the one book. Could I possibly read more than one book over the next few days? Probably not, seeing as I only have like 48 hours, and for half that time I will be sleeping. So I decided, because I finished that book and my rating was 3, so I went through the number 3 door, which took me to another of Emma's prompts, which was Old and New. So you could interpret that however you wanted. I thought great, that means I can read another classic. I decided not to read either of the 2 classics that I had left over from my Halloween TBR, which was Classic Tales of Horror by Edgar Allan Poe and The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I decided I wasn't going to do it. The Woman in White is too long, and Classic Tales of Horror is another collection of short stories, and I thought, you know what's going to happen. You'll read a couple of short stories and then you'll think you feel great because you've read a couple, but you've still got more of the book to go. So I was like, you probably won't finish it. So I decided to pick up The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and I'm so glad I did because I read this in 2 days. I possibly could have read it in 1 day, but you know, I was slacking a little bit. I read about the first 100 pages. I think I read about like 130 pages the first day, and then I read the other 100 and whatever. It was 260 pages. So I read about 130 pages one day, I read about 130 pages the next day. A nice balance. And you know what? I gave this book 5 stars because I really enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I was a little bit unsure. I do love The Phantom of the Opera. I've seen the movie and I've seen like was it the 25th anniversary concert that they did of the musical when it was like streamed on YouTube a few months ago. I loved it. I thought it was great. I absolutely loved the music from it. So I do know the story pretty well. So I was pleasantly surprised when a lot of this was told from the perspective of Raoul. It's not like first person, it's third person. But like it's from his perspective and then the manager's perspective. And I thought it was so well done. And I understood everything that was going on, even though like most of it like was what happens in the movie and the musical, but then there was stuff as well that weren't necessarily in the movie and the musical. And to be honest, I honestly didn't know where this book was going in the end. I knew how the movie ended, but I had no idea how this was going to end. I genuinely thought it was going to have a completely different ending. I was a little bit like, what's going to happen to our characters? So I was pleasantly surprised by it. I hate the fact that it's orange. Who decided to make it orange? But at least that's good. I don't have a lot of orange books. I'm getting critical. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, if you don't know the story of the Phantom of the Opera, get a life. That's shady. If you don't know the story of the Phantom of the Opera, I feel like everybody kind of knows the story of the Phantom of the Opera. There's a phantom haunting an opera. Haunting an opera house. But is he a phantom or is he a real person? Is he a demon? What is he? I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I think Christine as a character will always bother me. She always bothered me in the movie and the musical. Just her kind of gullibleness and the way she's so willing to like follow the angel of music. And even in this book she was the same. And it's like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? There were some great elements about it and I enjoyed it overall thoroughly. I thought it was very good and I really liked it. So that brings us to the end of November. That brings us to the end of my wrap up. I read 2 books, 2 classics. Wow. Don't come for me, Booktube police. Can't help it. I was playing World of Warcraft and I did nothing else. What the hell? What did I do? What did I do for the entire month? So that is everything that I read. I read 2 books. I'm hoping to do better this month. I was gonna try to read some kind of Christmas themed books, but I am prepared to pay for them. No, I'm not. And I think I might go on my iPad and just go from like the iBook app and go through the free books, see if I can find a few Christmas ones. I already downloaded a couple yesterday. I'm thinking I might have to like buy a few because I saw some for like 99 pence and I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind paying 99p for a chipbook. I just don't want to have to go through the whole thing of like ordering online and trying to buy enough so that I get free delivery. I was like, nah, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna put myself through that. So we'll see. I might read some Christmas books. Also, our book of the month for the Let's Get Classical is A Christmas Carol. I'm so happy. I've already read it, but I also have it and I have a lovely cover. Where is it? Look at that. Oh, you can't see it because of the light. Look at... I'm dropping books. Look at how beautiful this is. I'm so excited to read this again and have a discussion over it because it's such a thin book. I paid £15 for this. Back when I didn't care about money. I paid £15 for this book in Waterstones, but I absolutely love these classics that they did. You know, it matches my 2 here. It matches my Pride and Prejudice and Wuthering couldn't help myself. It matches these, although it's white, and I absolutely love it. And I treated myself to it a few Christmases ago. £15 though. There's 89 pages in this. Is there even 89? It's just 80? No, there's not. There's 85. 85 pages in this. And I paid £15 for it. So, that was everything I read. Thank you so much for watching this fail of a video. At least I read something though. So thank you so much for watching this video. And I shall see you in my next one. Whatever that may be. Probably a vlog because Vlogmas! Even though I don't even know why I'm even bothering trying to do Vlogmas this year because I'm not going to do anything. I remember last year, at least I went out and I went ice skating and I went Christmas shopping. I mean, I've already done most of my Christmas shopping. I can't see me doing absolutely anything this month. Maybe the odd day I might do something different than just wander about my house. So I feel like most of them will probably just be like reading vlogs if I encourage myself to read. So we shall see. But oh well, here's hoping I do well this month. Goodbye! Wuthering, my teeth.